All right, time to go way back, Boyd. We're going way back on this one. This is a movie that I've been really meaning to see for ever. I mean, the movie is fucking 100 years old at this point, and is considered a horror classic, icon, and staple. So, about time I get around to watching Nosferatu. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Now, I've seen silent movies before, so I'm used to that. So that's a lot of the archaic nature of this one. I'm not gonna really. I'm gonna have kind of graded on a curve for that because acting in a silent movie film is way different than acting today. It's a lot more exaggerated in the movements and the expressions, and it has to be because you don't get the vocal tones of anything. So it's a whole different animal. And I've seen several silent movies before this, a lot of old Hitchcock ones, and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So I'm familiar with the feel of a silent movie. All right, now Nosferatu is by and large, well, not by and large, exactly a Dracula ripoff. That's so. If you know the story of Dracula, you know the story of Nosferatu. It's essentially the writer director here just made an unofficial Dracula knockoff and got sued for it actually. So this one, I mean, despite all the he changed all the characters' names and changed the ending, and hoped that he would avoid being sued, but he was then but unsuccessful there, and all the original prints of Nosferatu were ordered destroyed by Bram Stoker's widow. However, some secondhand ones still existed, and this movie has essentially came back from being almost lost because of that. Now, tainted history aside, it by itself it still stands up pretty well. It is definitely a slower paced movie, and you have to be prepared for that. But the cinematography is great, and the makeup effects are still hold up really well. And considering this movie is, like I said, 100 years old, it's saying something. Max Schreck plays Count Orlok, which is our Dracula stand-in, and he's great in the role as this creep. Then his whole creepy movements and how stiff and rigid he is in moves. Just that I think he only blinks one time on camera in the entire movie, from what I saw in like some trivia notes. So he's really effective. I will say the face does look a little goofy now that you're like to today's audience, but like the hands and the shadows are still creepy looking. So definitely some props there. And another issue I was having for this one, and it took me too long to realize they were doing this, is some versions of this are released in black and white, which is not the preferred way to view it because it actually makes it harder to tell when it's supposed to be day and when it's supposed to be night, because they look identical in that version. Because the original one, I think later they put a tint to it, so most of the day ones that kind of have this almost yellow tinge to it, and there's blue tinge when it's supposed to be night. Because Count Orlok's walking around, and you can see a shadow clearly being cast, so it's clearly being filmed in the middle of the day. But they are trying to put this like tinge over the camera to make it to indicate that yes, this is supposed to be night. It took me a little while to pick up on that. But otherwise, it does follow the story of Dracula pretty closely, except for they make it so that Harker is called Hutter in this one, and who goes out and comes back to goes out to sell Count Orlok on the place. In this case, right across the street from him, and his boss is called Knock, who is pretty much a Renfield stand-in. So essentially, it's his rather than someone who went beforehand and went crazy. Now it's his boss that once Orlok gets close, he just kind of goes mad due to Orlok's power and then starts running around as the madman. They really have kind of written out the character of Lucy. They have kind of like just going after Ellen, which is our Mina stand-in. I mean, they do a little bit with the Lucy stand-in of her just going outside and those kind of he's calling to me, but they don't actually show like an attack there. So it's like a condensed version of Dracula. A lot of the characters are really slimmed down, so like like the Van Helsing and Dr. Seward characters really don't play much of a role. Like they're kind of in it, but they don't really do anything. So I don't know if the story stands up as strong as like most Dracula adaptations, but what they do does work very well. And this also has to be given credit because I believe this is the first depiction of a vampire being harmed by sunlight. I guess in the original novel, and I've read it. They actually don't talk about him being destroyed by sunlight. They mostly just reference the stake to the heart. I think. I know it's the first on-screen vampire being killed by sunlight, so I think it's what adds that to the vampire mythology. Now, overall, I will definitely give this one a lot of praise for being an horror icon, but you do have to be ready for a much slower movie because it's can kind of crawl along a little bit, but the music does work to keep things going for it. This one, trying to figure out where to rank it. Like for my likings for the month, it's kind of more towards the middle, but I do have a lot of respect for it and what's in it. So I'll give it a rating of. I'll do 6 MacGuffins for it because it is flawed, but it is still what it does right. It does very right. The cinematography alone is beautiful, and it's worth watching just for Max Schreck's Count Orlok presentation. Now, I do know this movie was actually remade by Werner Herzog, and I do intend to see that one at some point. I might get around to seeing it this month. I don't know, but I will review that one eventually. Because I know both of them are definitely worth seeing. Alright, I think that's about all there is on this one. I know I said it was 100 years old, but I didn't actually quote the year. 1922, so literally 100 years. Alright. 100 and a half really at this point, because it came out in March, I believe. I think that's it for trivia there. So that's all for today. I will see you tomorrow, Void. I got more movies to get through. Catch you then.